Mavs friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined as always by Josh Bowe. We are coming to you at 11 o'clock on December 1st. Can't believe it's already December. The Dallas Mavericks just played their 21st game of the regular season, where they defeated the Portland Trailblazers in a high-scoring affair, 137-131. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Very entertaining game. So that was not like that was significantly more fun to watch than that Utah game last night. So feel like we could talk about a billion things from this game too, which is kind of funny considering it's against a crappy team and no one played, but things happened in this game.
Let's go over the injury report first, because I think that's a good starting place.
Yeah.
First of all, Luka Doncic back. Good. Mm-hmm. Second of all, Kyrie Irving, Naji Marshall, Derek Lively, Klay Thompson out, along with Dante Exum, who's been out. So you return your star player to the team, but have 4 of your top 8 rotation guys missing the game on the second night of a back-to-back. And this one had – it kind of felt like the game equivalent of throwing Luka a grenade at the end of a shot clock, because he's not played in over a week plus. And to insert him back into a game against a surprisingly feisty Portland team, they were 8-12 before that loss. Only it felt like a narrative disaster waiting to happen. Do you know what I mean? And for the Mavericks to come out and win this game, there's a lot of interesting takeaways. There's a lot of fun statistics. In my opinion, the first quarter, I thought Luka looked like ass. Like Brad Townsend tweeted something to the effect of, look at Luka's stats. He's not rusty at all. And it was like, he looked a little rusty. And then the second quarter came around and he started playing the way the Mavericks have been playing. And it was really wild to see Luka repeatedly kick ahead the way he was, the way the Mavericks have been, take Kyrie in particular, taking advantage of teams. And, Luka got a lot of hockey assists this game. He finished with 13 assists. He probably should have had 18 to 20 with some of the misses that were going on. Shout out to Daniel Gafford missing like 4 times at the rim. But it was really nice to see Luka on the attack. I felt like he was just a lot more, it's a 24-second shot clock. I'd be curious what his time of possession was this game. Like, that's not something we can figure out right now. It's ultimately something that really only matters over the course of time. But I felt like Luka played faster, and when Luka played faster, the Mavs were on the attack and were hard to stop. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think what's really encouraging about the way that he kind of reintegrated himself into the fold is that it would have been very easy for this game to be a Luka dominant game. And I mean, it's crazy to say this wasn't a Luka dominant game when he finished with 36, 13 and 7. Like, obviously he had his fingerprints all over this victory. Mm-hmm. So that's not to discredit like how crucial he was, but I'm just, like you said, in terms of possession, in terms of touches, in terms of on ball time, it would have been really easy for him to play this like 2 seasons ago, like that 2023 season when that roster was a mess and he had to do everything because they just didn't have the horses to do anything more than just let Luke roll the ball out to Luka and let him figure it out. Because you just look, because of, like you said, 4 of the top, 7 or 8 rotation players are missing. They missed 2-3 starters in Derek Lively, Klay Thompson, and Kyrie Irving. So like, if any game for Luka this season to be like, all right, just let me take care of this and I'll handle it. It would have been this one. And yeah, he did have his moments, but he felt like it all came within the flow of what they wanted to do. The Mavericks had 6 players in double figures again. They had 3 20-plus scorers with another Daniel Gafford at 19. All of their double-digit scores were at least 13 or more. So it's not like some guy just got 10 right at the end or something like that. So yeah, like that's all the more impressive to me. The fact that this roster was so depleted tonight and Luka still looked like he was making a concerted effort to not lapse into, I don't even know if I want to call them bad habits, because in my honest opinion, I feel like the reason why he dominated the ball so much for the first 4 seasons of his career was because the roster necessitated it. This was a game where the roster could have easily necessitated him doing that again, and he didn't. And the team looked great, and the offense looked great, and they won.
Okay, dog. Sorry, I'm at my kitchen table and I hear the pit bull biting the table. Like, what are we doing? Well, anyway, this game was really something to see. It really felt like the Mavericks just leveled haymaker after haymaker, and Portland would not die. That was the first thing. So it's Alan mentioned in the chat. He said, withstanding that level of shooting is impressive. For anybody that hasn't looked at the box score, the Blazers shot 58% from three and 58% from the floor overall. The Mavericks shot something like 55% from the floor and 50% from three. So there was a ton of shot making going on in this game. You pointed this out, and I probably wouldn't have noticed it, so I ended up writing about it in my recap. The end of the biggest difference seemed to be the Portland just gave the ball away one too many times, or realistically 8 times more than the Mavericks. They had 21 turnovers to the Mavericks 13. And off those 21 turnovers, the Mavericks scored 33 points. So that was kind of the equalizer for this game when you got down to it, because the Mavericks stayed ahead, and they kept staying ahead because Portland just had really horribly timed miscues, which honestly felt very relatable compared with the way the Mavericks have lost some games this year. Yeah. So that was kind of like the big overarching, like, deciding statistical factor. But the game, the way that the game was played at pace was a lot of fun, as we've mentioned. It was, just nice efforts from multiple people. I think the guy that I was most pleased with seeing, something from him was, Jaden Hardy. Jaden Hardy started the game 1 of 7 in the first half, and it's like he got the rare start. And we meaning me, have kind of killed him over the last year. And I've tried to be somewhat measured in my approach, because I think the Mavericks have to keep putting him out there. And for him to start 1 of 7 was really disappointing, because it almost looked like he had the yips. Like, he had a corner 3, which just is wide open. Like, it's a practice shot, and it just wouldn't go down. And then he starts the second half. Luca finds him, I think, for 3 straight 3-pointers. And he ended up finishing the game 5 of 12. He made all 4 of his shots in the second half. Or maybe it was 4 or 5 in the second half. But yeah. I was delighted to see him sort of bounce back in a game where they really needed just a little something extra. That was, there's kind of guys like littering the roster like this. Man, Luka was 15 of 24 from the floor.
Yeah.
That's
very good.
Yeah.
The turnover thing was big, and was kind of what we were talking about during the Utah recap podcast, where we were kind of like, okay, it's time. Like, there was that conversation. We knew that it was going to happen because the Mavericks were winning without Luka, and it was we both acknowledged, this is a dumb conversation. Yep. We shouldn't really acknowledge it seriously, and we kind of both agreed after that Utah game. It was like, okay, like, it's run its course, like, because the offense, they've been scoring okay, but they definitely gotten sloppy. Like, they needed their stabilizer, like Luke. They needed their guy that can get them where they needed to be in the half court and get the game under control. And I don't think it's a surprise that the offense kind of returned a little bit to normalcy. Not to say that the offense has been bad without Luka. They've still been shooting the ball pretty well, just in terms of like that sloppiness and kind of out of control. Like, they had their guy back. Like, they had their guy that sets the tempo, that sets the pace, and keeps things under control when the game's going nuts and the crowd's against you, and you need a possession where you need a good shot. And then the Mavericks had that, and the Blazers still are like looking for that guy as they're rebuilding. Like, they clearly still don't have that guy yet. And yeah, like, Hardy was great. So yeah, I agree with you on the Hardy stuff. And I think it builds into the bigger point. I know I made this point on Twitter, but there was a lot of consternation earlier in the game, I felt like, from fans, and that's okay, because I'm not trying to call out fans or anything like that. It's okay to be mad during a game when your team is not playing well. Mm-hmm. But I think an important perspective to have is, like, again, they're missing so many guys right now. The rotation is a mash unit. There is no other NBA team that looks 100% wheels fire. Everything's firing correctly when you're relying on your 12, 13, 14, 15th man. Like, yeah, is it a bummer that Omax Prosper comes in, plays 3 minutes and stinks? Yeah, but also he won't play when this team is fully healthy. Is it a bummer that Dwight Powell comes in the game? And while he did have some really good moments, he had a couple of moments where he got scored at the rim. Also, another guy that is not going to play when everyone's fully healthy. Even Spencer Dinwiddie, who's been great, there's going to be when this team's fully healthy, he's not going to play 34 minutes, even though, and that's not to say he was bad tonight. I'm just saying, like when Dante Exum comes back and Kyrie and Klay are healthy, like the minutes are going to be drastically different. Maxi Kleba is not going to play 27 minutes when this team is fully healthy. So, like the only other team you could maybe say that still fires on all cylinders when they're missing, multiple rotation guys is like the Celtics. But like other than that, like Phoenix, Kevin Durant went out for like a week and a half and they lost like all their games. Like the Mavericks lost Luca and they've still managed to win. They won 7 of 8 without Luca, or I don't know, 6 of 7 or whatever it was. Like,
right.
Most teams are going to lose games when you are digging from the bottom of your rotation. And the Mavericks, to still be competitive, not only competitive, but win these games, when you have to play Dinwiddie 34 minutes, you have to play Powell 15, Maxi 27, Hardy 23, give Omax a couple of minutes here or there. Like, I don't care who the opponent is. Yeah, Utah and Portland stink something awful, but that's impressive to me. And I think it shows the evolution of this roster and the talent. Because 2023 Mavs do not win these games if they were missing 4 of their top 8 rotation players. Like, you know what I mean?
And it's interesting that you say that too, because I never really felt like this game was in doubt. I wrote the recap. I kept expecting Portland to fold, and I'm usually a little bit of a pessimist in game, but I just really felt like the Mavericks had this one. And that was in spite of some of the miscues that they made as a team, which was at least interesting for me. Mike Curtis of the Dallas Morning News got this posted this quote from Luca where he said, "I'm just happy, man. It's what I love to do. I'm just happy to be out there playing with joy. Obviously happy we got the win. We got it in the end. Just really happy to be back." I will say, fan, couch psychologist, whatever you want to say, I earnestly felt like during the first 15 games of the year, Luka was playing like a guy who was bringing something to work with him. I don't know how to describe it any other way than that, where he looked like all of us have had coworkers who bring shit to work with them, meaning something from their home life, whatever, something going off that you don't really know about, but you don't really have a chance to ask them about. And they're just in a bit of a shitty mood. And Luka was not playing with a lot of happiness, I felt like. And I thought in the New Orleans game and then in this game, he really looked pleased to be out there, which, I hate that the Luka experience comes with the fact that the first 20 games seem to be his preseason because it changes the narrative and sinks the way these Mavericks sort of get discussed in the national media. But I was having a discussion with a Bucks fan friend of mine today who's like super pissed that the Bucks have already been written off. I'm like, do you really want anybody talking about your team? You really made this point, and it stuck with me for over a year now, where it's like, I used to want the Mavericks to get national respect. I don't give a shit about that stuff anymore. I don't want any of these assholes who watch half a quarter of a game or watch something on Spectrum or watch, something out of context within the game, when you already know that the game's decided. I don't care what your opinion is. I'll watch these games soup to nuts as they happen and then watch them again later for better analysis. I feel like I know this team better than a lot of the experts, even though I'm not, a paid official expert. So it's nice to see Luka out there having a little bit of fun. And hopefully that fun can continue as the Mavericks sort of work their way through this odd, softer part of their schedule.
Yeah, for sure. I think, even if you're not playing armchair psychologist, I mean, just looking at what on the court, like he was so gimpy through the first 3 weeks of the season. Like he came out with the calf, he had the calf injury that sat him all preseason, comes back, has his right knee is bleeding again, hurts his knee, misses a game for the knee. He was on an injury report for a groin injury as well. So that's 3 lower body injuries from middle of September to end of October, and then the wrist injury. So that's basically he had 4 injuries in 2 months. I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy either if my job required me to be at peak physical performance and I had 4 injuries within a 2-month span. So even if there isn't anything going on off the court, which we don't know, like just that alone is enough. And he moved After the first quarter, of course, which he was getting his bearings and he didn't look great. But I felt like second quarter to the fourth, he didn't look gimpy. He didn't have he didn't fall down and he's holding his knee or he's holding his he moved relatively well. He didn't get to the rim a ton, but that's okay. He was still kind of getting to where he wanted to go to score. I say that I'm an idiot. He was 5 of 5 in the restricted area. He was 5 of 7 in the paint outside the restricted area. That's when Luka's feeling good, shooting well in the paint and getting to the paint. And we honestly haven't seen that from him all season. He was career low rim rate, I think, entering this game. So if that's something that changes now that he doesn't feel like he's got a a flat tire, basically, one of his legs isn't working.
Yeah.
You're going to see this team. When they get everyone back, and if Luka stays healthy, we could really see this team pop off in a way that sounds silly because they're already kind of popping off. They've won 8 of 9, but they could really be taken off if he can just stay healthy. And I know it's Portland, but that's a big part of it.
We're going to circle back to the Portland element of this in just a minute. So, guys, I want to take a minute to talk to you about our sponsor. It's a company called Body Spec. You've heard me talk about this in a few shows in a row, but I'm going to keep doing it until you guys go and get a scan. Body Spec provides what's called a DEXA scan. It's a full body composition scan to help you understand what's going on with your body. Whether you're an athlete, a person with a desk job like Josh and I, well, I guess we work from home, a parent thinking about getting back into shape, or just a person who's, a fitness enthusiast who wants to know where they are kind of in the process, then a DEXA scan is something you should absolutely consider. If you'll head to the show notes and click the Body Spec link, you can see what I'm talking about. It goes to a landing page that's specifically designed for our podcast, Pod Maverick. Right now, we're offering a special promo code. If you use the promo code PODMAVS45 in all caps at checkout, you can get $15 off a single scan. The holidays are right around the corner. This could be a good gift, or it could be a good way to kind of kick off where you're thinking in terms of a New Year's resolution. Body Spec's competitors charge over $150 for a scan like this, so you'll be getting real usable information for a great price. Again, if you'll visit bodyspec.com, link in the show notes. That's both the video, it's in the actual video description, and the podcast, the audio podcast, it's in your show notes, and you use the code PODMAVS45 at checkout. Josh is getting his on Friday, and then we'll talk to you about this a little bit more because I'm interested to hear what he thinks about it. Personally, I'm a little frustrated that I got mine done right before Thanksgiving. I have been eating like a fucking goblin, and I'm sure my body composition has only gotten worse the past several days. I had hot chicken. The last week has been bad. I just have let myself just completely go to hell. I haven't worked out at all. Kids were home, everything. So it's my next scan is probably going to be worse, but I'll get back to the gym tomorrow. Anyway, so now I'm going to insert some ads. Really appreciate you guys hanging out as we do our business. We will be right back. All right, folks, if you could also do me a favor and consider subscribing to the show, leave comments if you're here on YouTube on the actual video itself. I came back today to a ton of comments, which was it just made me happy. I like reading what people have to say. Even got some lovely comments about the show's music. That's my favorite thing. Anybody who's listening on an audio stream, please leave a review with your podcast service of choice. Really enjoy those. Okay, you'd mentioned something before I went on one of my soliloquies with our ads and such. I want to pay some respect to Portland here.
Yeah.
Portland is a rangy, long, weird team with a number of guys injured. And I thought that they guarded PJ Washington as well as anybody's guarded PJ over his recent hot stretch. He only took 8 shot attempts. He was obviously 4 of 6 from 3, but he didn't really have a chance to post up. He was a little loosey-goosey on some of his drives. And I think that was much more about what Portland was doing to him defensively than what he was doing on offense. So that was just something to see. Denny Advija, I don't want to say his name wrong.
Denny Advija.
There's this Jabari Walker guy who was out there for a little who I'd never heard of.
Son of former Mavericks great what's his name? Samaki Walker?
Really?
Yes, that's his son.
That's gnarly. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tumari Kamara was out there just battling his ass off, 17, 7, and 4. He got called for a rough basket interference call. That was basket interference, but it just seemed like bad luck.
Like brain fart, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shaedon Sharpe is one of the most vertically explosive athletes that the NBA has right now. Micro guard Anthony Simons, who fouled out in 23 minutes, just lit the Mavericks on fire. I mean, they're a fascinating team. If they had a real coach, they might be better. But shout out to NBA Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups for being the first coach this season to actually double team Luka Doncic on repeat, which I really felt got the offense going and probably cost Portland the game.
Yeah, I had a lot of responses, and even our friend Tim Cato, I got a from DLLS said that the reasoning was probably because Simons had, I think, four fouls in the third quarter, and then he got his fifth sometime in toward the end of the third quarter, and they were just doing that because the Mavericks were trying to switch Simons onto Luca. They were just taking whoever Simons was guarding and screening them onto Luca, and then anything and just doubling him just to prevent that foul trouble. And my response is, I get it, but even then, I would never do it. I would just pre-switch Simons. I would have Simons run. I would rather have Simons run away from Luca than put two on the ball. I don't know. I think at this point that strategy is just dead and buried, because you on paper if you're gonna double Luca, sure, it makes sense. This, no Kyrie, no Klay. And they did it, and Luka still killed them.
Killed them.
You don't give my philosophy, and this is broader than just Luka. I think NBA players are too good, and I think the way the game is called, where it favors the offensive player officiating wise, I don't think you can give even bad NBA players open opportunity. The league is too good, and it's too much of an offensive game. You just don't do it. Yeah, I don't these guys are in the NBA for a reason. Just don't think you could give guys open space and open looks anymore, no matter how far down the totem pole you think they are in an NBA hierarchy. But yeah, shout out to the Blazers for getting the Mavericks back on track in the third quarter for that.
Yeah,
that Simon's third quarter was like the ghost of Brandon Roy from 2011. That was what was going through my head. That was they weren't even running stuff for him. It was just give him the ball and he shot.
They were
in airspace.
I thought the defense on him got progressively tighter, and it just didn't matter.
No,
that was
very impressive. What 20? What do you have? 27 points in 23 minutes. If he played the full game, I don't know if the Mavericks win. So
I will tell you, man, the fourth foul that he picked up. Do you remember which one it was? It was at the 7:15 mark of the second quarter. It's the one that took him out of the game.
I don't remember that one. I specifically remember the fifth one, which that
was one of the weird ones. But this was the one that put him out of the game for most of the first half. Luka rifles the ball 94 feet. He hits. This is how good I am at this, guys. He hits Daniel Gafford in the hands as Gafford just needs to raise his arms to to lay the ball in that close, kind of on the block. And for some reason, Simons was just there and absolutely gets destroyed while picking up the foul. So it was crazy to watch that sort of thing. Yeah. Who else from on the Mavericks is really the Gafford?
Go ahead.
All four of his misses were from Luka passes, which is hilarious to me. He was pretty solid tonight. Quentin Grimes continues to show his worth, man. 28, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 steals. My goodness, man, this guy he's outstanding.
Do you think I saw? I can't remember who posted it. I think it's our friend of the show, Dwight, who runs another Mavs podcast.
Yeah, 21 going on 77.
Yes. I think he said something like, I think the Grimes trade might be pound for pound the best the best Mavericks transaction in the Nico Harrison era.
Even better than Naji, you think?
And better than Kyrie, just in terms of
Ooh.
like the value, because you trade Tim Hardaway Jr. and 2 second rounders for him.
That's
and he's
crazy.
he's 24, he's cost control, he's restricted free agency, so he's not going anywhere unless the Mavericks want him to. I don't know if I agree with that, but I respect that take, because I mean, they stole him from Detroit, and I am mystified that there weren't 6 other contenders that didn't want to try to make a competitive offer for him, because he is exactly that kind of role player that would fit in with anyone, like literally any other roster. Like, imagine him in Phoenix. Like, they could certainly use some bodies coming off the bench right now. Imagine him in Denver. Imagine if he was the starting 2 guard in Denver, or if he was the first guard off the bench instead of Russell Westbrook. Imagine him in, imagine him like with the Spurs. Imagine him in Houston, Minnesota. I mean, he literally would fit any team that's trying to win right now. His game is so malleable and perfect as a role player that it's just kind of stunning that the Mavericks got him for a player that they were over in Tim Hardaway Jr. and some second rounders that like, who cares? Shout out to Grimes and Dinwiddie for buying into the Jason Kidd madness coaching method. So Kidd, they lose to Phoenix. The bench stinks. Grimes plays 9 minutes, makes 1 shot. Kidd post game says his bench stinks and can't make any shots. Grimes then gets a DNP CD the very next game against Denver, and the Mavericks lose a close game. Then he gets back in the lineup. They win 8-9. Like, go figure. And then Dinwiddie plays 50 million minutes to close that Miami overtime loss, goes 1-12. And now he's playing like 2022 Spencer Dinwiddie since then. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is Kidd has earned the benefit of the doubt. Like, there's obviously there's a method to this madness. And I am done trying to question and suss out like the Kidd manipulation, Kidd motivational tactics, because it's working, and I don't know what it, I don't know. Like, I throw my hands up in the air and trying to figure this stuff out, other than I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt and this kind of stuff.
I think that's fair. And it's funny, I recapped this game and I didn't even talk about Grimes. I'm going to get yelled at about that in the comments. Like, I didn't realize he was that. One of the things I like about him is his sort of fearless rim driving. He doesn't worry about that. And the Mavericks need somebody else that can do that other than Kyrie and Luca. And obviously Naji is really good at like the mid-range stuff. Like, the getting to the actual rim itself is pretty fun to watch. Any of the bad stuff you want to hit on? Like, what is Maxi Kleber doing out there this long still?
Because who's going to play?
I want to get like Gafford. Put Gafford back in there. Him and Gafford have the same number of minutes, and one guy has 2 points on 0 for 5 shooting and 4 defensive rebounds. I mean, I guess the rebounding, there's an argument for that, but
the problem is Maxi's also playing like some backup 4, and who is the backup 4 right now? Like,
that's
when
true.
PJ's not on the floor, like, they tried Omax for 3 minutes and he missed 3 shots in 3.
Omax is so much worse than Maxi. That's a good point.
So,
I get it. It's painful to watch Maxi. What I was surprised about is in the defensive sequences in that fourth quarter, Maxi was bad. The offense, I just sort of think is they're going to play 4-on-5.
Like, you've come to terms with.
I've come to terms with that. I don't expect it. I thought some of his drives and shots were actually a little more purposeful. They just didn't go down. But the defensive stuff, he just didn't make rotations. And I couldn't understand why. Like, if you go watch the fun, I'm not sure if anybody cares to go look at the game tape, but he was the help guy on a number of drives, and Spencer got his ass whipped this game on defense. Like, it ultimately didn't matter. I don't really want to harp on him, but the length of the Blazers really caused the Mavericks problems, and the Mavericks, they got lucky. It's okay. I'd rather be lucky than good. But it was just that those were the elements of the game where I walked away from going, but then again, it's like you said, a lot of these guys are playing much fewer minutes. It probably doesn't matter. So there you go.
Yeah, at least with Dinwiddie, I mean, his defense was not good, but he had 20 and 5 on good shooting. So with Maxi, he didn't really make up for it on the other end of the floor. He did shoot 5 times, which I'm going to say that's the most shot attempts he's had in a game this season. Yes, it is. So he's making progress.
Yep. Well, with the Oklahoma City Thunder losing and the Nuggets also losing, the Lakers held on to win one of their games. Memphis beat the tar out of the Pacers tonight.
Memphis is starting to get scary.
Yeah, Memphis is good. They're a good basketball team. They just are flat out good basketball team. So I think the Mavericks play them. Is that who Dallas plays on Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's some NBA Cup considerations for that game. Have no idea what they are. So not even going to try to explain it. Tyler Edsol's
the last time we tried to do it, we messed that up.
No, it's very much always sunny in Philadelphia with like the guy and just pointing at the whiteboard. There's a lot going on there, but it is what it is. I think we should wrap this one up early, and I'm gonna head over and do a Mavs party. What do you think?
That sounds great. This should be a fun one.
I hope so. I mean, you never really know who wants to talk or not. I think people really enjoy getting their takes off whenever the Mavericks lose. So anyhow, all right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we will be right back with our second show, Mavs Party. So everybody, if you're listening on an audio stream, you'll find that on Monday afternoon. And so those of you who are here at the show, stick around. Everybody else, have a great start to your week, and go Mavs. Just love that sweet saxophone. Hello, guys. Welcome back to Pod Maverick. This is our second post-game recap show. This is Mavs Party, where you can and should come talk basketball with me. Get your takes off. Let me know what you think about this particular game or the season at large. Don't really have a firm set agenda for this one. It's funny. We have more people in here than we've been having for recent shows, and there's a StreamYard link in the chat. I'll share it again. You just click and join this. You can join from your phone. You can join from your computer, however you want to do it. You guys normally see Brian in here. He's usually the first one up, but I guess he's probably taking a break for the evening. Don't really blame me. Everybody's got to go back to work tomorrow. But this could be, fun way to let me know what you think about the season at large. If you're new to the show, if you haven't really participated before, I tend to give preference to people who I haven't seen before, because, part of the reasons why I started doing anything related to Mavs stuff is because I was living by myself, away from all Mavs fans, didn't really have good outlets for fan base stuff. And there wasn't really any way for me to participate in the community. So I wanted to have that sort of outlet as far as fan base stuff. So, here we are. It's, let's see here. It's about 11:30. Josh and I just finished up that show. Trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to go off on about, but I don't really know at the moment, because, when you win a game like that, there's you just kind of want to be happy and walk away with the win. The Mavericks needed a clutch performance. They actually got one. And they're going to mark their, sort of consider this just a notch in the belt as the Mavericks march their way up the standings a little bit. This is pretty important to notch these games, at least early in the season, because as things go on, you don't want to look back and see points in the schedule where you think, all right, the Mavericks should have done better here. How could they have lost this game? Oh, we don't want that to be the deciding point between home court and that sort of thing in the conference finals. But that's just the way these games go. All right, I got my man Leo who has a question here or a comment or wants to talk about something. Leo, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Hello, everything okay?
Yeah, it's
Can you hear
good.
me well?
Yeah, you sound great.
Well, my question kind of pertains not to this game, but more overall how the season's going to go forward. If Klay Thompson does have like a serious nagging injury, if not serious, just like a nagging injury, who would you like to see replace him in the starting lineup that would work well with the current bench and depth we have? Not to speak to any trades, because Mavs Twitter right now is on civil war between whether or not they want Dorian Finney-Smith back.
Yeah, I know. So you're on the pro. You would like to bring him back. I think
yes and no.
I think it's got to be situation dependent. I mean, if you have Naji Marshall and Quentin Grimes, I think it depends what the other teams are bringing to the table in terms of size and who you want to match up with whom defensively. Ultimately, the starting point shouldn't matter. I get that it's an ego-based thing. You know, Tim Hardaway talked about this once when he was on JJ Redick's podcast way back when, and he talked about getting used to both roles. And it was one of the things that I admired most about Tim because he didn't let that affect how he played. And I think that could probably be said for both Grimes and Naji, that I think either one would fit and either one would work. Your rotation and sort of span of minutes is kind of the key points there. So I think it's a good question. I would suspect Naji gets more than Grimes just because Grimes can be a little bit more of a heater off the bench. And Naji's a more of a connecting piece who certainly can score, but I think he's best at moving the ball and playing with those superstars. But, you know, we'll see.
And then, like, the second part of the question is, seeing how much we struggled without PJ's specific skill set of guarding larger wings, having the ability to post up, and just rebound in general, is there a specific player you'd like to see the Mavs target?
I'm so bad at trades. I don't like any of the ones that I've seen because I think that you're trading one set of problems for another. I mean, it's even why with the Maxi of it all, where I think if you're worried about moving Maxi, you're trying to get out from under his money, and that has more to do with salary cap than it does improving the team. I think Maxi's actually fine in this role if he's playing 15 minutes a night as opposed to 30. So that's just where I sit.
Okay, because this game it wasn't a great Maxi game, and it was just
there hasn't been a good Maxi game. The thing that you want to do with the Maxi minutes is you want to not notice them. And that's really when he plays more than 15 minutes, you start to notice Maxi. So
gotcha. Well, hopefully we don't run into problems later on in the season because we really can't shake this injury bug with all.
No, but nobody can. Look at the top of the West. I mean, it's pretty brutal out there. I mean, Memphis is finally shaken free of stuff. Houston's been pretty injury free. The Thunder are still first in the West despite having been snake bit. The Warriors are tumbling a bit due to their injuries. The Lakers haven't faced much yet, but they're going to because their team is old. The Clippers will have the same set of problems. I mean, this is just the modern NBA. Like guys, they run more, they cover more distance. The game is physical despite what we like to complain about. And these guys' bodies just aren't really attuned to the kind of motion. I just don't think we're really designed for it. I mean, if you go watch an 80s game on Twitter, on YouTube, they're just kind of hopping up and down the floor. The game's fast, but it's a different, you don't open shots are allowed. You're not seeing a lot of guys like charging down a 17-footer trying to play hyper aggressive defense. So,
all right. Have a good night, Mr. Kirk. Thank you,
buddy. Talk soon. All right. Coming up next is Matt. Matt, welcome to the show.
What's up, Kirk? How you doing?
I'm okay. What are you thinking tonight?
Oh, well, first, it was good to see Luca back, and he actually looked healthy for the first time all year, so that was good. He looked really good. I'm excited. Yeah. So,
I was pleased with that too.
Well, just two quick things. First, I can't believe it. I was listening to your podcast last Sunday when we were going to send Spencer to the moon, but How good is he? How good was he tonight, man? We needed him in that fourth. I'm super impressed with him, and like you said, our depth is crazy because now that I'm not that big of a Hardy guy, but I mean, now that you have Harden and Spence, if they're your 9th and 10th man on the bench with all the injuries we have, I mean, compared to the years past, it's just so much better. So
if you go back to the Denver game, so it's Friday the 22nd, Spencer has averaged, let's see here, it's 6 games. He has averaged 11, 15 plus 19 is 34. 39 assists over 6 games. What is that? I'm going to do the math here. 39 divided by 6. 6.5 assists a game for a bench guard who's not playing. I mean, he's playing 30+ minutes in these games. One of the things I've really just have to be honest about is when I didn't really like Spencer's play the first part of 2022. No. The year that we traded him for Kyrie.
Yeah, that was 2022, I thought, right? Wasn't it?
I think it was that February of maybe 2023. I can't remember, man. All these years blur together. The large point.
I agree with you. He didn't pass. I was gonna.
He didn't pass.
Yeah.
So it's like he's using his playmaking abilities really well. Like one of the key buckets in that fourth quarter was him throwing like a light lob over DeAndre Ayton to Dwight Powell for a lane.
That was the best pass of the night when he was faking out to go to the 3. That was the best. I don't know if anybody on the team could have made that pass, maybe other than Luca and Kai.
That's right.
That was insane. Yeah,
that's right. And that's a huge help because him scoring is nice, but it's inconsistent. And the fact that he seems to be willing to like run an actual offense as opposed to being just a guy who wants to get off the bench and get shots, I think makes him a hell of a lot more valuable to the Mavericks than I would have considered. And just he keeps the flow going. I mean, he's tonight I already complained about this. He wasn't very good on defense, but I thought he's been pretty good in a lot of these other games. I mean, if
Gaff, sorry to interrupt you, if Gafford or Matt, if I'm not trying to blame Kid, but if at least he's if he's on a guard, at least he's body that Devi matchup tonight. Like how many times he get blown? I saw your tweet. Yeah. How many times he get blown in a row? Like 5. At least he has somebody behind him. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I just like them. Then I have one other thing. I know I'm kind of been a Maxi defender over the years, and I'm trying to be nice, but one, I think this team is awesome that we don't really necessarily have to make a trade, but I don't know. I'm not too keen on Dorian Finney-Smith either. I love the man, but I just don't know. But I just think we need, if you really want to be a championship team, I don't know, even those 15 minutes of Maxi, I just don't see it anymore. I mean,
right.
I don't know. I would rather play Dwight for 15 minutes. I know how crazy that sounds, but I just think Dwight has the energy for 15 minutes a game more than Maxi does now. He just doesn't shoot the ball anymore. It was obvious tonight, especially, but.
I'm okay with Maxi at the 4. I'm not okay with Maxi at the 5. That's all.
I'm with you.
Hey, man, this is good stuff. Thanks for joining the show.
Good to see you. First time this year. I'll check back in. Thanks, Kirk.
No, it's tough. I just do this. I need to get better at doing these because the Mavericks have played a ton of games in November, and I don't like doing them on the first night of a back-to-back because the show has no shelf life. This time,
I'm impressed you're doing it tonight on a holiday weekend, man.
This is good. No, and then they play on Tuesday. I'll definitely do on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or they play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then the cup games start. That's why if you look at the schedule, there's a big gap between the 7th and the 21st, I think is what it is. That stuff will suss itself out. But
yeah, I'm going to the game on Thursday. I'm from DC. So
awesome. Have fun, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Kirk. Right. I'll check in.
Later. Okay, coming up next is Paul, and then we have Ray. Paul, welcome.
Good evening. How y'all doing?
I'm great. Thanks for joining the show. What's going on?
First time, long time. The last guy kind of said what I want to say. I'd like to see Dorian in, Maxi out.
Okay.
I've always made a trade. What you said, 7 straight years, and I think certain players play better in Dallas, like Spence, and I think Dorian's that guy, and I think he could hold down that backup 4, and that's all I got.
All right. Well, I think that one will hang out there. We'll see if they actually make that. They'll do something, but it's more a matter of when, and it's a matter of whether they want to give up the resource. I don't follow a lot of the NBA at large anymore just because I don't got the time. I can't what contender is giving up a first-round pick for Dorian? Maybe I'm just being an asshole. Who knows?
No one is.
So maybe we can, if we could get him because we apparently own Philadelphia's second rounder, or we will. It's the best of the two of them and someone else's. I think that would be something I would be willing to forego. But first rounder, I don't know. I just attach a lot of love to first round picks.
I'd go all in on this year, and then you got Klay, hopefully being the Ray Allen big shot Bob off the bench, and we'll be all right. Might get it this year.
Hope so. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too. Ray, long time. Good to see you again. What's going on?
Yeah, long time. Good. How you doing, man?
I'm okay. This has been the get right portion of the season has been, it's like we're all kind of getting in shape. The Mavericks, I think they've won now 8 of 9, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I think 8 of 9 sounds about right, except the Miami game, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
But the reason why I especially wanted to call in today, because you made some really, really good points that I was literally just talking about yesterday. And I kind of was like, oh shit, I just was talking about this yesterday. You were mentioning something about Luca's kind of demeanor and sort of how he is, his attitude and kind of his mood.
Sure. Yeah.
It was pretty palatable, and I had this kind of fun conversation with my wife going, Nico should get a plane before the trade deadline, go to Europe, and bring back Boban Marjanovic.
Just go. Make sure that he's a part of Luca's pick-me-up group. Just keep him around.
I mean, like you see, there used to be all these kind of like fun YouTube videos of like the guy became a kid every time he was around that guy. I don't know. It was just a fun thought. Like, who knows? Just do it.
Well, it's I always feel for Luca because he's a young man. He's 25 years old. He's got a 1-year-old at home. And I know everybody makes these kind of sassy comments when I bring up this sort of stuff. Like, oh, he's a millionaire. He's probably got to live in help. If you have to deal with, like, I love my children. I have a 1-year-old. And there are days where I'm like, what the shit is, and it can kind of just take over your day where it's like, oh, I just had a tough day at home, or I got to go play basketball.
Yeah.
My knee hurts and my back hurts and I've got the refs yelling at me. Like I feel for these guys more now that I sort of understand, now that I'm older and have seen through some stuff. I just will say that when you watch a game like tonight, and really I think the Pelicans game apply to this too. Those two games feel like the most fun Luca has had playing basketball this season. They're just in those games, it just everything felt like a struggle, and that sucks.
Yeah, and I would probably take the injury portion of it quite seriously with it too. Like maybe he just needed to that weaken a bit, because I don't think the sprained wrist tells the whole story. It was a lot of things.
Why not? So if you have a reason to and that's the other deal is he doesn't not want to play. Sometimes they maybe had to get together and be like, look, your wrist kind of hurts, your knee kind of hurts. Can we just get you right for 4 or 5 games? And he, because the NBA forces you to fill out these injury reports. From my understanding, before yesterday's game, he was out shooting around and he looked just fine. Yeah, so exactly. Oh well.
The moment you see Kyrie's on the injury report, I'm like, he's playing. Luka's playing. Exactly the plan. Yeah,
I'm glad Kyrie got some rest because that dude was starting to look like butter spread over too much toast.
He was yawning at a timeout late in the fourth quarter. Did you see that?
It's like, all right. He's like, let's wrap this up. I want to go home. So,
but 100% get you, because I got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and you have a long day at work, and then you're like, oh, my day is not over. Sometimes you kind
of no, your day's like just starting, and it's difficult. And for the first timers, it's their first one where it's just like everything is a disaster. It's getting cold. Are the kid? Because he posted all these adorable pictures of like her first birthday party, and I'm like, man, I don't remember my son's first year, my older son. Yeah. Like I just like it's all so it's like I can't imagine like being a professional athlete on top of it and having to deal with all this stuff. So
yeah, for sure. It would be quite a lot. And then also media and pressure and all that kind of jazz. And you said that the other thing about narrative, and that was the other thing that I was saying the same thing yesterday. I'm like, watch, if we lose this Portland game, regardless of the circumstances of injuries and back-to-backs on the road, watch ESPN do the whole, are they better without Luka? Blah, 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 blah.
And it's not, and to me, it's not even Luka. It's half the damn fan base that gets so frustrated with him. And I try to see both sides of it, because it's just like when you win 5 out of 6 or whatever it was, it's like, does Luka need to play differently? And I think we could argue in the New Orleans game and in this game, he played differently than he played some of those games earlier in the year.
Yeah, especially in the second quarter, like you said, instead of, kind of slowing the pace down so he could feel the game out, he was pushing the ball up, getting the guys, shots moving. Yep. So it's just, there'll be a little bit of that, but I'm glad to see that narrative thing's not going to happen. hopefully, and that we're doing good. But I mean, it was just a dumb, funny thing that I kind of thought about. I was like, it would be nice to see Bobby back on the team just for the vibes.
Sure. I mean, do you remember way back when I was being very thoroughly frustrated about JJ Barea still being on the team. Yeah. And it turned out, I think Barea, and I turned out to be just so wrong about what he brought from an intangibles point of view. And there's always, I think when you got, a team that does have the depth that the Mavericks do, it's all the guys that are on the back portion of the bench need to be important to the team chemistry.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause do you remember the old, Theo Pinson saga as well on that 2022 team?
I do, and he was important to that team's psychology. It's just he stopped being he still thinks he's important to the team's psychology.
To this day on his podcast,
he hasn't been on the team for several years, and it's just like, hey, my buddy, come on, relax. Oh well, yeah. Oh well, thanks for joining, Ray. You got anything else?
No, go Mavs. It's good to see an entire team where we don't have to kind of look at one player each and every night and say they drive us nuts. So it's good to have that for once this is good for a season, So that's fun. It's fun.
All right, we'll talk soon. Hope you come back.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Brian is going to join now. What's up, Brian?
Nothing much, man. Just finished watching that game.
Yep.
And digesting everything that happened. It was pretty cool seeing Luca be back. That was fun. We won what now? 4 games in a row?
4 games in a row, and they've now won 8 of 9.
Right. Yeah, we're sitting kind of pretty at this point.
I would say so, but they're playing. So let's just agree. So I want to look ahead a little bit. What do you think about the upcoming sort of slate for these Mavericks? Let me just pull up. So they play the Grizzlies on Tuesday. And that's going to be, to me, that becomes it's obviously important for the NBA Cup, but I mean, the Mavericks shouldn't really care about that. Then they play Washington, Toronto, Clippers, Portland again, and then Minnesota on Christmas. Am I crazy for thinking that if they can defeat Memphis, they're playing at home, which I think is a value, and I think they'll have as close to a healthy squad as they can, because I'm pretty sure they held out Lively mainly for preventative reasons, much more than his knee was actively hurting. Kyrie probably just needed the rest. So it's they're going to be as healthy. Maybe Klay's probably the guy that's not going to play still. Wouldn't be shocked. And frankly, I don't think they need him right now. So if they can get past the Grizzlies, I think they could win out through the rest of the year. Good Lord. They might be I just don't see a team where I'm going, I'm really worried about them past the Grizzlies. Is that crazy?
I think they drop one to the Clippers. I do think they beat Memphis because Kyrie's going to be back. That Clippers team is tough.
They're tough, yeah.
Really good on defense.
Zubac is going to eat us alive. That just kind of comes with the territory.
He's certainly going to try. And look, as long as they don't overreact and try and double in the post, and they just play them straight up and let him do whatever he wants to do in the paint, but we don't give James Harden any extra advantages to attack, then we should be fine. That's why I think that we maybe drop one to them, because they're just a team of a couple tough shot makers and
beating any team twice in a row is hard.
Right. Let alone a team that's good. And I think as much as I shout on this Clippers team and I thought they were going to be super weak, they've been good and they have an identity. And that's in large part due to their best player in James Harden and their coach. So a lot of credit to them. They started the season really well, and I think they're going to be tough. So we probably drop one to them. But outside of that, Portland, whoever else, Toronto, that's not a basketball team. Minnesota, sorry, man, they can't score. They can't score, so they can't run with us.
Can you believe Anthony Edwards is still hitting? He is still making close to 5 threes a game, and they're this bad.
I was going to say that's the thing. The shocking thing isn't that the 3-point shooting and the volume has kind of continued. It's that it has and it doesn't matter. That's what's shocking. That's what's shocking. So, yeah, that's funny. But that's what happens when you know what I mean? When you have a point guard problem for 2 years and you don't do anything to solve it except draft a rookie that you don't play. So I
like it.
That's its own thing. Hey, have you been seeing a all the weird Trey Klay things that are happening on the timeline?
Yes, and I just ignore it because it's not happening.
It's not happening, but I'm not even seeing good reasoning for it.
Because there's been some fun ones. Like my man, he posting here is Rico. He always sends me the Mavs. He said the Mavs are 11-0 when Klay plays less than 28 minutes, which I think there's a discuss. It's just like the Luca based discussion. There's a talk to be had about role and how you're playing that I think is much more interesting than whether a player should go or not. Like Klay Thompson probably shouldn't be the starter. He should be like a seventh man. That's the stage in his career that he's in. Sorry. He's going to be coming back from foot injuries. He's really hot or cold. He just is. But trade him? Like why? For who? You're selling at low value, first of all.
That's what I wanted to bring up because I saw one. Glenn posted one, and this.
Okay, Glenn's drunk. We know you. We love you, Glenn. Don't be mad. You're drunk.
No, good guy. Good part of Mavs Twitter. He is essential to the cause. He posted Klay and Maxi for John Collins, and then said, "Oh, and throw in the Sixers second rounder." Almost threw my laptop out my window. That's a lot for a dude who's not good at basketball. Like. John Collins is a 4 who makes $25 million, by the way, and is making $27 million next year, who can't defend fours, can't guard up or down the lineup, can't really dribble, isn't going to be guarded like someone that can actually shoot. And despite how athletic he is a worse finisher at the rim than you think.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who was a resident at John Collins Island for a long time, that is just not a good basketball player. And then using the Maxi salary slot on that, plus a dude like cashing in all of your player, free agent, future recruiting cachet that you use to like get Klay and then just like turning around and trading him in the same season for a bad player at that, really just because like he struggled to shoot a bit early, which he does every year. I know people that are like just putting out trades and whatever and just like
I get it.
Fun, but
no, and that's where I've just as my life has grown more like complex, I just spend less time on the Twitter and more time in group chats. And that is to say that like I'm more than willing to have basketball conversations with anybody that wants to have one in good faith. But if you're throwing around trades at the 20 game mark, you're not thinking about the fact that those trades are never going to happen. And secondarily, most trades don't factor team chemistry into anything. They just don't. I mean, I remember being I was obviously very wrong about the Kyrie trade. Okay. I just was. But one of the things I wasn't considering at the time was I wasn't acknowledging how bad the Mavericks actually were. I was still living with the fantasy that Luca scored, 60, 20, and 10, like 35 days prior. And I was like, oh, well, this team, if they have this thing and this, so I don't want to bring in a guy who's a bit of a locker room cancer, which I mean, at the time, Kyrie what? And so it's like, that's a different situation than, this team is what? They're now 5 games above 500. They're 13-8. And like, what are we making trades for? Or are we, this isn't like fantasy football where you're trading guys ahead and hoping to like play for the playoffs. Like, I do think the Mavericks make some sort of move because they have for 7 years in a row. But right now I'm looking at the guys and saying, all right, well, who needs to go? There's not a person. I mean, some of these guys drive me crazy, but I don't think they're like actively detrimental. I mean, maybe Maxi gets played too much.
That's the name that sticks out.
That's not his fault. That's like Kid continuing to put him in and leave him in there for 30 minutes.
That's why he's got to go, because Kid's not going to stop doing that. That's why he's got to. It's not even his fault. Like, I've had this conversation with people. Maxi doesn't need to go because Maxi's a bad player.
Yeah.
Maxi is mostly a non-factor on offense, which is another problem. But Maxi's a fine player in like a 15-minute a game backup forward. Occasionally, throw him out there as a stretch 5. I wouldn't do that ever again, just because like the rebounding is so bad in those lineups. But yeah, like a 15-minute a game backup 4, you can make that work. Except whenever he has success in that role, Kid just can't. He can't leave it alone. He can't quit it. It's like crack cocaine, man. He get one hit of that Maxi, and he's like, man, this brother's got to play 25 minutes. It's like, no, No, he just had success in a 15-minute role. And then what do? You throw him out there for 22 minutes because somebody else got hurt or somebody else needed a night off, and now he's hurt. And now we're back in the 3-month Maxi cycle of waiting for him to come back and look right.
Right.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
But there'll always be something. There'll be another. This is just sort of the downside of social. Like, are you on Facebook anymore?
No, not anymore.
No, I still am because I like it. I'm old. I've been on it since I was a sophomore in college. But one of the things that happens now with a lot of the different pages that generate fan like engagement is they post they make like Mike Fisher's headlines look boring in comparison, where they'll take like a post-game quote and be like, Spencer Dinwiddie said, and it's just like you click through it and it's just complete and total horseshit. So it's like the elements, it's for as bad as Twitter is, it can be, for as bad as Reddit can be, there's a real appetite out there for drama. And I just don't have the bandwidth for it. It's not that I think it's bad. I mean, it's not for me. I prefer to get mad about really, really dumb specific basketball things, like in-game decision making or things that kid does or says, as I'm hearing it with getting mad about rotations. Like misreading or overinterpreting what somebody says. I will do that too, but it's far less fun than like the games itself. So
yeah.
Oh, you got anything else for us?
Quinn Grimes, keep doing what you're doing.
Man, I didn't write about him in the recap. I feel like an idiot. He was amazing.
Dude, look, man, this is what I was hoping for. Years ago when I was jealous that the Knicks had him and we had Josh Green instead. And then when we got him in the summer, I knew what was coming. I didn't think it would look like this, and definitely not this early. But that dude is so good, and so is Naji, and so is PJ. And Spencer has completely thrown egg all over my face the last like 5 games. So shout out to him.
Sure.
This team is like, the depth is apparent. It's just difficult to see when you have 3+ rotation players out every night. But once we get most of our guys back, and more importantly, once we have our 2 stars together, the depth is going to be apparent. And people are going to start talking about this team as one of the deeper teams in the league. And that's before we go out and make the deal that I do think we need to make for someone who can fill some of PJ's role when he's out. And then this team is going to be like, there's nobody in the league I'm afraid of. Like, I think Boston is still the best and the clear most talented team in the league, but I think that we could still run with them in a 7-game series with that kind of team, like this team, plus, a slight upgrade to the bench.
Well, man, I'm grateful for you joining the show. We'll talk soon, all right?
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Have a good night.
All right. Okay, guys, this has been fun. We'll do it again on Tuesday after the normally timed 7:30 start time with the Grizzlies. I don't know how much of that game I'm actually going to be able to watch live. I am an assistant coach for a basketball team, so we shall see. Everybody be good. Start your week right. We will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for hanging out. Go Mavs.